Hello, 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 my lovely rays of sunshine. Beautiful people, welcome. It is Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time if you're tuning in live. If not, you are watching on the archives, and welcome to Pop of Color Live, a music industry late night show for colorful bands and artists. Have you ever watched a TV late night show and you're thinking, hey, this is a really cool format to discuss current affairs, but I'm sick and tired of them talking about politics? Welcome to my world. I was watching these shows and really great format. I love the way it's set up. You know, just a person on a desk, and I was like, I can do that. So I talk about relevant stuff in the music industry. So my name is Clara Charron. For those of you who don't know me, I am joined by a series of cats because I also volunteer with an animal rescue in my city. So please excuse the cats who are being rehabilitated right now and are a bit of bit wanting attention. Hi Leonard, thank you for tuning in live. It's so nice to see you in my comment section as a little pop-up of you just joining. For those of you who don't know me, I run a music industry branding and marketing firm. I'm based in Canada. Hi Sanjay. But I have clients all over the world. I help artists figure out who they are, what they stand for, and how to express it to the world in ways that really make sure they can stay their authentic selves, know who they are, can amp it up on stage without descending into a stereotype or a trope of themselves, or just not becoming a parody of the character they created for their artistic brand. That's what I do. But this is my show, which is all about you guys and I want to know, by the way, in the comments of how best I can serve you. So as you can see, I've got amazing lighting tonight, which is why the cats are like all coming my way. Hey Spencer! They just want to bask in the glow of this light as much as I do. It's lovely. Though I feel like one of those like baby chicks underneath the red light, except this is like white light. Anyways, let's talk about the news. So those of you who are longtime viewers of my show know, I try to do these shows live as much as I can. Last week, we had a really cool interview, and it was a slow news week, so I was like, okay, well, I'll just film everything in advance and schedule it out. As soon as I finish filming and schedule it, bam, Taylor Swift drops the news that she signed a new record deal, and I'm like, oh, crud, what am I gonna do now? So I would just like to, so I linked the article in there anyway, and I made a cute little reference to it at the very beginning of the show last week. But I wanted to reiterate it and talk about it in more detail at the start of the show, just to catch you guys up in case you haven't heard. So, Taylor Swift's long-time record deal with Big Machine expired at the beginning of this month, I believe. So, she's been a free agent for a couple weeks, and it was very much up in the air of what she was going to do. Even I discussed it on my show. You know, is she going to re-sign with them and ask for more? Is she going to move up to a major label? Is she going to start her own label? Is she going to go solo? All of these were very, very strong options. I had someone in the industry talk to me because they saw my show and they're like, oh yeah, she's definitely staying with Big Machine. Turned out, nope. She signed to Universal Records, the largest record label in the world. And here are a couple things that are pretty interesting about her deal. One of which is she's going to own all her own masters going forward. So, fun fact for those of you who don't know, but when you sign to a record deal, you don't own your own recordings anymore. They are owned by the record label who paid for it. That's why if you ever, say, are going through your iTunes store and so on, and you see the copyright of the album, it'll be copyright Universal Records, copyright Sony, copyright Warner Music, Nashville. That's because they own the masters, which is the final recording of that song. What Taylor's managed to convince them is that she gets to own her own songs going forward. It's still not sure if she's going to be able to go buy back her old ones. They're probably going to ask for a lot of money of that because she was bringing in over a third of the revenue for her old label out of all the artists on their roster. So they're going to fight tooth and nail to keep that. And another interesting thing, this is the bit that really, really was a shocker for everyone, is she convinced Universal, when she signed with them, that every time they sell their shares in streaming services such as Spotify, they have to split the money that they get from the selling of the stocks with the artists on their roster in non-recoupable ways. That means that it's a gift and a payout to all the artists. They're not going to ask for the money back. It's not like an advance where it's essentially a loan. It is a gift because there would not be such popularity in streaming services. Spotify would not have the value it has on the stock market if it wasn't for these music creators. So that is really awesome on her part. She's really finding a lane for herself with championing artists' rights. And first she was heading off against Spotify, if you guys remember that, with the 1989 album. Then there was the debacle with Apple Music, and I remember she wrote a letter and she was talking to them like, as in, I'm fortunate enough that I can support myself and my team on my tour without getting paid for 3 months, but for all the other artists who are not going to get paid for the first 3 months of free trial when Apple Music launched. She talked Apple into that. Say what you will about her music, her persona, but she quite clearly is going into that lane of artist champion. And I'm really interested to see where she takes that, if she's going to take it further, if she's going to and get political about it, because she definitely has the clout to do it. And, she's conquered music. What's she going to do next? Next piece of news I really wanted to cover, funny enough, was Iggy Azalea's new record label. So say what you want about her music. I like to listen to it when I'm in a certain mood of angry at people. But she recently got out of her record deal and she signed to an indie label based in San Francisco, as what she said in a tweet is a deal/partnership. So she, like Taylor, is also going to own her own masters going forward. She gets to sign others onto this label. And I just thought that was really interesting because we've been saying for a while in the music industry that the best way to go into a record deal is by being a partner, not an employee. So build enough clout that they come to you and you can ask for what you want to have some of your rights so that you are not as easily fireable as the low-level employee. And essentially, that's what she's doing. She's not with a major anymore. She's going with an indie, but she's going to be the big boss at the indie. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Oh, by the way, if you click the link in the description to this video under freebies and news sources, I always put the links to the full articles on this if you ever want to read up more on it. And lastly, I just want to talk quickly. This is mainly for my folks in North America, but it's on Article 13, which is taking place in Europe. So lots of people have been talking about it in Europe because it's a European Union thing, as well as Great Britain, who is also going to be taking part in this law. But for those of us who are unaware, it's also called the meme ban. And basically what's going on is the European Union is looking to update their copyright legislation. And what that means is that they're looking to get more strict when it comes to user uploads onto the internet of copyrighted material. So I just wanted to quickly distinguish, to make this a little bit educational as well, fair use. So in the US, there is a thing called fair use. I'm sure you've heard of it from people who say fair use about their video covers on YouTube and so on. But fair use essentially means that you are allowed to take a clip of someone's copyrighted work, if it's for educational purposes, news, research, critiques and criticism, parody, and so on. In the EU, what they have is called permitted use. it's essentially, it sounds very close to the same thing, but the difference is the US written version of this law is a lot more open-ended in the sense of, as long as it falls under you're not going to do damage, you're not uploading a chunk of copyrighted material to get views without putting it in the context of education use, critiques, memes, you should be fine, versus EU has a stricter definition of what you're allowed to do. And if it doesn't fall under that definition, so something that has not been approved, even a format that hasn't existed yet, say memes, which have not, it does not allow, which means that you could put, that could be breaking the law in a big way. And the second part of Article 13, which is the main part, is they are moving who is going to be blamed for, how do I phrase this, because I'm tripping on my words here, but the blame goes from the content creators to the people who host copyrighted content on their sites. So up until now, let's say if I uploaded a chunk of someone else's movie onto YouTube, onto my own channel, clearly not having anything to add to it, I just want to put a pirated movie onto YouTube so people can watch it for free, YouTube would go after me and give me a copyright strike. With Article 13 passing in the EU, it would mean that instead of me being to blame, it would be YouTube's fault, and YouTube would be on the hook with the law. So essentially, it's going to mean that YouTube will have to very carefully vet every single upload that goes onto their platform. So it's YouTube, but it's also other user-generated sites. If you are other video uploading sites, all sorts of things. But I'm giving YouTube because it's the biggest example. If they can spot that, you're going to have to go through everything to make sure that they aren't taking anyone's stolen content, because if they are, they're going to be on the hook for legal repercussions. So there is a whole lot of material on YouTube. I hear something like 400 hours every single, I forget the exact stat. It's in one of the news sources I put in the description of this video, but there is a whole lot of content being uploaded to YouTube every minute. And if YouTube doesn't have the person power or the algorithm power to scan through and fingerprint everything to make sure there's nothing stolen in there, they're going to offshore the work to production houses. So what that means is, instead of YouTube taking the blame, what they're going to do is they're going to only allow content to be uploaded from certain content creation houses, so that the content creator houses, will be on the hook for copyrighted content. So long story short, it means that it'll be very hard for any creative, whether you're using copyrighted content or not, to upload their own material, to upload to platforms that are built on user-created content. So yes, it's a bit complicated to explain it. I have in the description of this video, I have a link to the archives of this episode, and there is a bit of explanation on that if you click the link. So let's get on to the main feature tonight. I got through that one. I'm not a lawyer, and so a lot of this legal stuff is a bit dry, and I might not be explaining it as great as a lawyer can, but I want to give it my best shot because I really want to help. I really want to spread important information, and really I'm just the kind of person who wants to serve more than anything, and that sounds silly when I say it out loud, especially now that I'm live, but let's do it. Okay, 10 music industry predictions for 2019. This is the main feature I wanted to talk about on my show tonight. So This is episode 31. I've done 31. This is the 31st episode of my late night show, and I've been researching the news for that. I've been really into music industry news for a while. I follow lots of stuff online and in papers and just watching trends, and I've studied a bunch of trends, and I've come up with 10 predictions for the coming year with where the music industry is headed. So what I figured would be fun would be I share a prediction, you let me know in the comments what you think, and then in a year from now we'll come back and we'll see how close or far off I am from the target. Shall we go? Okay. First prediction. Okay, so you know how a few weeks ago, I found a study that I brought into the news on the description of the video and into my segment about how Fender commissioned a study that showed that at least half of new guitar players are women now. So what I predict is that in 2019, at least one major music instrument retailer or guitar company is going to have a marketing campaign that prominently features women guitar players in a respectful manner. There's stats that are there, but sometimes the culture is a bit slow to catch up when it comes to, say, music stores. There are music stores in my city that are not very friendly to young women coming in looking to purchase gear. And I think that this culture needs to change to be able to keep encouraging new players, because music is a wonderful skill to have. Even if you're not going to go for it to be a career performing artist, it's a wonderful skill to have for you if you're working another job in the music industry. Learning an instrument is wonderful, and no one should be barred from it just by discrimination or stereotyping. So whether it be a guitarist magazine that has a woman guitarist on the cover and she's not naked holding a guitar like this, like I've seen in several places, I think that this is something that needs to happen. And I think it is going to happen, because if they've got concrete numbers, it's about time to use them to their advantage. If 50% is not a minority to pander to, it is 50%. Half your customer base is now of a certain the female gender. Let's show pictures of them playing guitar so they can go, hey, that would be me, and buy. Simple business. Scooted kitten. Okay, second prediction. PR firms are going to become matchmakers. All right, so I've had a music-ish blog for about 2 years now. So I've talked to a lot of real music bloggers. And I say real music bloggers because they're what people normally think of when it comes to music bloggers. So, they'll review, they'll interview, they'll feature tracks, they'll do premieres. And the important thing with how music blogs work is they need to have consistently high numbers, and they need to be the first to get to important news. I've discussed this in other episodes I've talked about. If you're interested in learning more, look at my one on the state of music journalism. I think you'll find that one really interesting. But so as a result, music blogs, music media, they need to be proactive in order to search for the latest buzzing bands or up-and-coming artists, the next big thing. So they don't have time to sit back and wait for a publicist to pitch to them if the band is buzzing and goes, hey, we need a publicist. Because the big artists don't need to worry about that. They've got the media lining up for them. Emerging artists who strike big on a viral hit need to scramble to get a publicist and get that in order, or won't even think of it. And the very emerging artists at the very start of their career don't have the budget yet to afford publicists. Now, publicists, don't get me wrong, they are not in the sense of they're very good at what they do. They have an overhead budget. they need to keep the operation running. But it's going to be hard to ask for what they ask for if they're not consistently producing the results that they used to. And if they don't want to be feared of losing their touch, they're going to have to expand their reach some other way, right? Expand what they do. So what I think publicists are going to do, so publicists, PR firms in the music industry, is they're going to take on more of a matchmaking kind of role. So they already have a huge network of people in the music industry by their career, not just media, but other people, from going to events, from talking to people, from attending conferences. So their clients aren't just going to come to them for media from now on. I think what's going to happen is they're also going to come for matchmaking. So whether it be someone who finds, so whether it be a publicist matchmaker who can point you to the perfect producer for your act, or potential collaborators, a manager, or co-writers, all the kind of people you're looking for. They would know them, and they would be the person to know where to find these people, whether it be locally. So in your city, I know this, and this person, to a different city. That's what I think is going to happen with music publicists. Third prediction, a charting hip hop single in 2019 will have its beat entirely composed by AI. Enough said. Okay, fine. Do you ever listen to the trap song of the week and think, yeah, this beat sounds so basic, it could have been bought for 25 cents at a gumball machine? Well, with the rise of AI, this may no longer be science fiction. Think about it. If it's a very simple, very cheap sounding beat, I don't think it's going to take a lot for a computer to be able to figure it out coming up. So I think some artist is going to try it, whether it be a SoundCloud rapper who's looking for something on a budget, or an avant-garde project from Kanye or Drake. I'll be really interested to see if that happens. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Prediction number 4. Facebook marketing is now going to be more prominently aimed at the senior citizens and retiree crowd. For my younger viewers, have you ever felt like tearing your hair out when you're watching your dad try to use Facebook, or just try to use a smartphone in general? You know, like, it's infuriating. However, once they finally get on it, they stay for a long time and they look at everything. So I predict that eventually people who have music that appeals to the older generations, such as legacy acts, think the Rolling Stones and opera, and even artists who play retirement homes and communities and have that older school sound, so vintage jazz bands, if they're smart, they're going to get on this and they're going to put Facebook ads out for that community who is there scrolling to see pictures of their grandkids and recipes. Okay, next up. A major talent buyer is going to build an enterprise gamification app. So for those of you who aren't familiar with enterprise gamification, which I also have a show about, if you check back on my video catalog, it's kind of taking video games and using that kind of intrinsic reward system to reward the loyalty of customers. So I talked about it in the terms of building a fan base. You know, think how you could reward your fans for consistently showing up to your shows or being engaged with social media. So think about that. Now take it over to a venue or a major talent buyer. So let's say Live Nation. What I think they're going to do is they're going to create an app of some sort which is a video game kind of world where you can show your fan loyalty and move up levels to get better seats or early tickets or backstage passes or free merch, because it's going to get fans way more involved, and B, crack down on ticket scalpers, because there's no way a bot can get to level 5 several accounts over. And I think that is going to be the smart way to crack down on scalpers and help build that fan connection. Next up, new border regulations are going to make it harder to tour internationally. So a big political trend, because once again, like I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, I do watch a lot of political talk shows, is this growing sense of nationalism, in the sense of, we'll take care of ourselves, why should we help anyone else? So what I think that might apply to in the world of music is other countries being less inclined to give foreign acts work visas to come tour, and instead want to support their own music. So I think the smartest artists who are going to take advantage of this are going to be the ones who are going to spin supporting them as patriotism. And they're going to really spearhead government grants for the arts, music grants, funding, and build fan loyalty off patriotism, which will be really useful if they can't tour as much and cross borders. So for example, I'm in Canada, and many artists will go in where we are a big straight border across from the States. If the States isn't going to be likely to allow more Canadian artists in, we're going to have to figure out how to do that with just going, how to make more money with less touring, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. Next up, Twitter is going to turn into a sort of LinkedIn for artists. So when I say LinkedIn, not necessarily uploading a resume, but I think Twitter is going to get a lot more professional. I think there'll be fewer music fans who join solely to follow their favorite artists. It'll be more along the lines of artists and media and industry people all in the same place together, going back and forth. And it will be more professional to DM people on Twitter in the music business context. So that's what I'm thinking with that. Next up, prediction number 8. At least one major DAW is going to release the next major update with .bc files included. So Facebook did not like my episode on .bc files because they thought I was trying to sell crypto. I am not. Basically, so I'm going to try to hope this does not get flagged funny. But essentially, there's also the article all I wrote and a show I tried to write about, a show I did about this. I think it's available in the archives. But essentially, I think it'll be I'm guessing Pro Tools. I'm placing my bet on Pro Tools because they're best known for live instruments. So you'll need plenty of collaborators for live instruments. But I think we're going to get this concept of being able to directly pay the splits from the song. So the splits and who owns what is directly embedded into the DNA of the song, so that every time the song plays, whether it be at the gym, in the coffee shop, on the radio, those royalties go direct deposit into the bank accounts, split in the perfect percentages of who owns them. So whether it be the songwriters, whether it be the musicians, the performers, the engineers, if the engineers or the producers are getting points, it'll go directly on that. And I think one major DAW is going to introduce this system coming this year so that it'll be accessible to do for any artist or any audio engineer who has the system on their laptop. Next up, prediction number 9, second last. Artist websites are going to be 1 page long. I think that's going to be a new trend, to have everything on 1 page so that fans stay there in one place longer, and it's ranked as more valuable quality content by search engine indexes. Of course, there will be always a hidden page for media, so that will be unreleased songs, secret files, any tour ride, or any of that kind of stuff that fans don't necessarily need to see. But the rest of it, I think, is all going to be streamlined onto one internet page to scroll. And finally, my last prediction of 2019, as of this episode, is that major labels are going to increase their visual branding. I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of music videos now that come from major labels have the major labels logo in the bottom right corner of the video. So it would be right here if you looked at that. And I think that's going to get more prominent. So it won't be just in the corner. I think it'll be on marketing materials. I always think it will be on in various scenes and music videos, that kind of stuff. Because one of the main reasons that the rise of the independent artists has been so successful and so prominent is because the cost of recording technology has gone down. So now major labels aren't the only way to record music and send it out to the world. That's not the reason artists get signed. If you are an artist and you only want to get signed to be able to go into a studio, you are 50 years out of date here. So as a result, major labels have found their new kind of niche as having that brand recognition, that certain skills of curation. So they showcase, like, this is what we think is cool, and that kind of trend setting. So think of them as a high-end fashion brand. You can get a plain pair of shoes, or you can get a pair of shoes with a logo on them. And I think major labels are the shoes with the logo on them, and they're going to make their logo more prominent, bigger, bolder, in order to remind people that they are the trendsetters, and that is their place, and that is why they think they are superior. They think that's why they are worth owning masters to artist music, to those recoupable advances and such. So yes, these were my predictions for the music industry in 2019. Please let me know what you think in the comments of this video. I would be really curious to hear if you have any of your own. We will check back in a year and see how I did, how far off I am, how close I am. I've got plenty of freebies on my website. Click the link in the description to also watch, if you want to rewatch this episode or get more of the news sources. I would love to send you a card on your birthday, a bunch of free digital downloads, and keep in touch. So hey, have a great night. Once again, my name is Clara Charron. I run Pop of Color, a music marketing agency, but really I just like helping you. So yes, to the artists, to music companies, to anyone who stumbles across this video on the internet, have a great night, be good to each other, and stay colorful.